So what is a person of peace? When Jesus sent out his 72 disciples in Luke 10, he gave them some specific instructions that can serve as a model for the kind of gospel ministry that will lead to multiplication even for us today. One of the instructions given by Jesus to the 72 disciples was to search for a person or a son of peace in Luke 10:6, which is also referred to as a worthy person in Matthew 10:11 when he sent out his 12 disciples there. Jesus highlighted that finding this person or this household was the main goal of the mission that he sent them on. So we're going to look at Luke 10, 5-7, and look at the characteristics that he labeled as what a person of peace is. So the first thing in verse 5 is they receive the messenger. Now, verse 5 says, when you enter a house, first say, peace to this house. Now, this is the messenger that he's speaking to. And a person of peace is welcoming this messenger into their home and is hospitable. Number 2 is they receive the message. In verse 6. And it says, and if a son of peace is there, your peace will rest upon him. But if not, it will return to you. If someone gladly accepts Jesus and wants to learn more, it's a sign that God has been preparing them. And we're expecting that person, if they're a person of peace, will be eager to listen to Jesus' stories and be genuinely interested in learning more and putting into practice what they're learning and sharing those with others. They gladly receive the gospel and attempt to love and obey Jesus. Number 3 is they receive the mission. Verse 7. Now, verse 7 says, and remain in the same house, eating and drinking what they provide, for the labor deserves his wages. Do not go from house to house. Jesus commands his sent ones to pray for harvest workers in Luke 10:2. And later define these workers as these people of peace that they're looking for. The reason that Jesus instructed the disciples to remain in the same house and to not go house to house is that the person of peace is being equipped and trained to reach the village, their neighborhood, or their city with the gospel message. This is aligned with Jesus' parable describing the good soil or fourth soil, which bears fruit and yields in one case 100-fold, in another 60, and another 30 in Matthew 13. Now, if this is true about a person of peace and how Jesus is doing mission and expecting his disciples, we should be able to see examples of how Jesus modeled this and how the early church put this into practice. So we're going to look at some examples. Now, a great example is the woman at the well in John 4. And another example would be Levi or Matthew in Matthew 9. And another example would be Zacchaeus in Luke 19. And the demoniac in Mark 5. Now, these are all examples of cases where Jesus was looking for a person that would receive the message, receive the messenger, and would receive the mission that he wanted them to put into practice and to share with others. Now, these are examples in the Gospels that we see, but we also see examples of this being applied in the early church as well, with Cornelius in Acts 10, Lydia and the jailer in Acts 16. And then another short example in Acts 18 is Crispus. Now we see that this is a pattern that happens time and time again. And this is something that we can put into practice as well. For those of you that are having trouble finding a person of peace, oftentimes I've found that it's important to ask ourselves two key questions. Number one is, how many people have heard the gospel in our community in the past month? If that number is small, then we need to make changes to increase that and do abundant gospel sowing. The second question would be, how is Jesus currently at work in this region or people? Because Luke 10, Jesus shows that the 72 disciples were sent to regions that Jesus had planned on going to. And so seeking understanding in what Jesus is doing currently and how you can partner with him is so important, instead of starting initiatives and then asking him to bless them afterwards. So if you're having trouble finding that person of peace that will receive the messenger, receive the message, and receive the mission, then ask yourself, how often am I sharing the gospel? And what is Jesus currently at work doing in this region or this people?